everybody! Welcome back to my channel. My name is Alice, if you don't know, and I am doing something kind of spooky today. It's a little bit different than what I usually do on this channel, which is like a review type channel for different products, different food items and makeup, just a little bit of everything, to be honest with you. But today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different than I usually do. I am going to be reviewing a movie that I had watched as a child that scared me quite a bit. It wasn't my first big scary movie, but it was one of the first big scary movies that I ever watched, and one of them that really sort of like got to me in a mental way. The movie I'm talking about is, of course, John Carpenter's The Thing. Yes, that thing. I watched this movie when I was a kid. It left a very big impression on me, and to this day I still find it like horrifying and scary for a lot of different reasons. Some of them being personal, and some, just the idea alone of a creature coming to Earth and taking over everything it possibly could, just even on a cellular level, is to me actually very horrifying.
That's not dog. It's imitation.
It's sort of a thought experiment done in the form of a horror movie, which I thought was, an incredible idea. I think that is a really interesting concept to sort of see on screen and to kind of watch as, as the events play out.
Most of you don't know what's going on around here. Hold on, damn well.
There are a few characters I want to discuss in this movie, and just to start, I will be, saying spoilers and showing clips of the film. If you don't want the movie ruined for you, you should definitely go watch the movie like right now, because it's a super spooky movie. It's really good, and in my opinion, like one of the best horror movies, at least from the time period that it came from. And, to this day, I think it still holds up against a lot of movies, especially movies that I feel are a little bit over CGI'd, to overcompensate for the lack of physical horror. Because all the movies in the past used, physical props, real props, and it just, to me, that sort of invokes a more real and visceral reaction from me personally as a movie watcher, as opposed to like some of the CGI things I see that just on a subconscious level, maybe I just know that they're not real. Not to say that they aren't scary, but maybe they're just not as scary as some of these other props, some of which are admittedly a little bit dated, or maybe a little bit silly, but it lends to the realness of the film. It lends to the overall creepiness of the film. I think it makes it exponentially more creepy than some of the AI and CGI created stuff. So just bearing all that in mind, and that I am going to be using spoilers, let's get into it. So the first scene of the movie is really one of the most iconic scenes. The dog running through the Arctic tundra, heading towards another, science lab and station. And right there, if you are paying attention, that is very suspicious. The dog is being chased by a helicopter. So right away, if you're paying attention, that's actually very suspicious, though maybe not for the reasons that you're thinking. Most people focus on the fact that the helicopter is trying to shoot the dog. No one is focused on the fact that the dog actually found the scientific research center in the first place. Basically, this animal ran out into the snow, into the wilderness, and just kind of took off, and they needed a helicopter to chase it down and to, kind of see that it was heading exactly for another civilization, another point of civilization near it, and already had kind of, I suppose, adapted to its surroundings, especially being a husky or maybe a Malamute. Is it Malamute? Or I'm not sure. There's a bigger version of a husky that can kind of live in those conditions, but I think it's a husky that they're portraying in this, and immediately it just goes right for civilization. So already that's a very suspicious sequence of events. It sort of gives you a clue as to something is not right with this animal. I would say equally, there is something not right about MacReady. Just right from the beginning, we have a man who is stationed in Antarctica, surrounded by ice and snow and wind. And he is putting ice in the drink that he is making for himself, as if it just, doesn't bother him how cold he gets. And that kind of is portrayed throughout the scenes in the movie when he removes his hat in several instances, being outside, in some instances, wearing, not even anything more than a coat. But we see a man who is not bothered by the cold, is stubborn, and is gonna do things his way. And when he doesn't get his way, there are consequences.
Anyone messes with me and the whole camp goes.
But right away, he is playing on a chess wizard computer, I guess. I've never seen or encountered one, but I suppose they actually really do exist, or had existed at some point. But he's playing the chess wizard, and he at the moment thinks that he is winning. He's pretty sure that he is locked in and has the machine beat. And then through his own arrogance and just kind of not seeing the whole picture, the computer beats him. Specifically, I believe, with the knight piece. And as you can see on the side of the computer, there is a black knight on the side of it there. And my theory is that MacReady here is our Black Knight. He's kind of the anti-hero. He's not someone who is evil, but should we really trust him implicitly? I feel like that is a very good question to be asking ourselves, especially, as events move further throughout the movie. At the point at which he loses, he dumps his drink into the chess wizard and ends the game, for good. And I want you to keep that in mind as we go through this review here, because that is something that will reoccur again as events play out. So after the game ends, he walks outside and a new game has begun. The helicopter is circling the camp, the dog has rushed up, and everybody is coming outside to see what is going on. I want to note here something very interesting about this movie. There is very little actual music in this movie. A lot of it is beats that sort of resemble a heartbeat, and not just a heartbeat, but a heartbeat that is kind of, well, at first sort of maybe nervous, confused, then distressed, then panicking, and at some point throughout the movie, a second heartbeat or a second beat kind of joins it, and builds upon the anticipation of the moment. Bearing that in mind, There is a character in this movie that goes unseen throughout the whole movie, but you can hear it everywhere, and that is the wind. The wind is just constantly howling. The lack of music and the lack of noise in general, like how quiet it is in the entire station, really amplifies how windy it is in this place and how often and constant the sound of the wind is, going. It's never ending. It's never ceasing. It howls. And they make a point of this in just several scenes throughout the movie. I pose the theory, just a small theory about the thing, that the noise that it is making when it is caught, which is like several instances throughout the movie, whether it's on purpose or not, it emits this sound that is sort of unlike anything that you would find on Earth. It emits this sound that, while almost being kind of metallic in my opinion, it actually sounds a lot like the wind howling. Like maybe the wind howling through a tunnel or through the ice, what it sounds like through just a crevice of ice, or maybe within that ship that was uncovered. To me, it was sort of indicating that if this creature had been stuck in the ice, their assumption that maybe it goes to sleep like a human kind of would before they died, is untrue. We never consider the fact that the creature might be conscious as it's lying there frozen in the ice. We never consider the fact that it was awake and alive for 100,000 years, perhaps, maybe even longer. It had crash landed on this planet and had maybe been injured or unable to feed and kind of continue, so it was in a form of stasis, but fully aware of its environment and surroundings. I think taking that into consideration, and the fact that they never once try to communicate with it, even when they had the opportunity with Bennings. They caught the creature in the act. They surrounded it, and MacReady, who kind of takes the leader role, just completely, takes control of the situation. He immediately burns the creature without a second thought, because we assume that the real Bennings is dead, and this creature was going to imitate Bennings and attempt to, continue to infect the rest of the crew.
MacReady, I know Bennings. I've known him for 10 years. He's my friend.
We gotta burn the rest of them.
To me, I understand the sense of panic one would have in a situation like that. I mean, I don't think anybody really knows what a situation like that would be, but it is reminiscent of a situation where you feel like you can't trust people in your life and that maybe people are out to sabotage you. You might react in panicked and, sudden ways that cause massive amounts of damage. I think while it was probably reasonable that MacReady did this, I just want to say that the fact that it emitted a sound that was like the wind, the fact that they never let it finish and tried to say, hey, we know you're the thing, why are you doing this? And, allow it to speak and try to, explain itself. I feel like that could have made the movie go a different way. It could have made the whole game go a different way, which brings me to my next theory about the movie. The fact that it is a giant chess game being played between the Thing and MacReady.
Checkmate. Checkmate.
It sort of sets the tone for how the creature acts and how MacReady reacts to the creature. I find it very fascinating because whoever wrote this, I believe, had a really intimate knowledge of the game of chess. The first instance of the creature revealing itself, I feel, is called a gambit. It's where you reveal a play or a plan that you have openly to try to get them to make the wrong move, to try to make them think the wrong thing, or to just confuse them maybe and get them to misstep. I'll be honest, I don't know much about the game of chess myself, so if I kind misspeak here or interpret the game wrong, please let me know in the comments. I'd be really interested to hear your opinions on the movie and how it might relate to chess, or if it doesn't relate to chess at all. But in my opinion, the creature revealing itself in the dog pen is a gambit because it knows it's going to get caught. It reveals itself in a spectacularly violent way. And the dogs are barking, they're clawing, they're trying to get out. The guy just left moments ago. I mean, there was no waiting for them to all be asleep before it had tried this. It does it immediately, and it knows it's going to get attention, and it knows they're probably going to react violently. Maybe that's how its memory works, is on a cellular level, it remembers that humans are violent creatures, and it's counting on that. So it creates this enormous scene. It shows off kind of its abilities and powers that we actually, I don't know if we ever see again. For example, it has that spray stuff that it gets the dog with. I'm sorry. Sometimes when I'm watching that scene, I picture someone off camera with a super soaker getting the dog. But what the creature, it seems like, is doing is spraying digestive fluid onto the dog like acid to sort of melt it and completely weaken it to the point where it can like get it and eat it and consume it and become it. So it shows off this ability it has, and yet we never really see it again throughout the whole movie. There were several instances where it could have potentially used it, but we never get to see that particular thing. So I feel like it's just attempting to really frighten them and really get them worked up and aimed in the wrong direction. MacReady has already anticipated its move. The fact that he calls for a flamethrower really shows this.
Mac wants the flamethrower.
Mac wants the what?
That's what he said. Now move.
To incapacitate the creature as best they can. This is the only method that he knows of to do that, and we don't even know if that's the best method. It appears to be, but the burned remains that they were brought in and they showed activity on a cellular level still. So even burning it might not be enough. It might have to be something even more extreme to get rid of it, which maybe shows that you can't get rid of it. To me, there are two types of chess games. There's a type of chess game where you checkmate the king, and then there's the type of chess game where the last pawn standing wins. I feel as though MacReady is playing to check the king, and the thing is trying to be the last one standing. Because in that sense, it wins. And maybe it has already won and it knows that. A lot of just speculation here. I want to mention briefly, there was like something going around about how you can tell who's a thing and who isn't a thing by kind of looking in their eyes and seeing if the light is still there, because I guess they photoshopped the light out of certain people's eyes to show that there was no life in them. That is very difficult for me to see. So to me, I don't really know if I believe that theory or if I'm not seeing it correctly. Maybe I just don't have the right TV for it, because that might be it also. I have an older flat screen, so it's not the best TV to watch some of these movies on if you want to catch stuff like that. Bearing that in mind, taking that forward, I'm just kind of going by what the movie shows. So at a certain point in the movie, Blair has kind of discovered this information, basically. He's discovered that they might be in trouble, like big trouble, like irreversible, you can't contain it trouble. Because he discovers that on a cellular level, you'll be taken over. Like, just even the tiniest portion can take a person over. And this is also, again, repeated by Fuchs, who I think realizes that there's just no hope at a certain point. And I've heard certain theories about Fuchs, but I really do believe that MacReady is right when he says that maybe he burned himself. Blair and the whole situation surrounding Blair, and just in general, the creature itself, it's a very moist, wet, drippy creature, especially if you stop it from sort of transforming and you get it mid-transformation, which I actually think is a defense mechanism. The fact that it secretes so much of itself, it gets everywhere. Certain scenes in the movie, there are whole rooms that are just kind of doused in this substance, and the idea of keeping it completely from you, ever touching it or being around it. They don't even address the idea that maybe particles from it being burned, if you breathe those in, you might become a thing, from the inside out. They also don't address the fact that they may actually be wrong in how often the creature will feed and take over a host. In their tiny little organization, there's only very few of them, and I think the creature knows that it needs as many hosts as possible when there are very few, but perhaps the creature wouldn't attempt to take over the entire planet. Maybe it's only in a certain cycle right now, like a feeding cycle or a mating cycle. I mean, we don't know if this is how this creature mates. There's a lot of unanswered questions in this movie, and there's a lot of assumptions made. The biggest assumptions being made, ironically, against other humans, whether or not they are the thing.
There's a storm hitting us in 6 hours. We're gonna find out who's who.
The character of Blair, though, really showcases just kind of the slipshod infirmary they have. Do they clean all these particles? Do they touch the rags with their bare hands? At one point, Nulls comes in and throws the dirty underwear, I can't even imagine touching that with my bare hands, onto the thing, and then McCready picks it up in his bare hands.
I'm the best of moods. I don't know what
What a disrespectful man been tossing his dirty drawers in the kitchen trash can. Huh? But now I want my kitchen clean, alright? Germ free.
And again, has it throughout the rest of the movie. It appears he hangs on to it, because we see it in another scene when he's talking to the recorder.
Windows found some shredded long johns, but the name tag was missing. They could be anybody's.
So to me, it really just shows that when Knowles asked for his kitchen to be kept clean, there are some really not sanitary practices happening up here, maybe just some lax rules and procedures. And so the idea of containment on a cellular level, it's just not going to happen. And I think that's really what tips Blair over the edge in the beginning. He realizes that. He understands that it's not going to happen, and that the best possible course of action would be to just, cut them off from the rest of the world, and hopefully the other place too, from society.
He smashed up some of the chop pretty good. Childs, go see if he got to the tractor.
Nobody gets in and out of here. Nobody!
At the same time, however, we do see that it is intelligent enough to create its own method of transportation. This isn't just a creature that is like an animal and continues to behave and act like an animal. In fact, there could be an argument made that the humans are acting very animal-like in this movie, and the creature, at one point, if we believe, and we do know at one point, that Blair is a thing, is acting very civilized, asking to come in, saying he won't hurt them.
I don't want to stay out here anymore. I want to come back inside. Funny things. I hear funny things out here.
Did you come across Fuchs?
It ain't Fuchs. It ain't Fuchs. I'm not going to harm anybody, and there's nothing wrong with me. And if there was, I'm all better now. I'd like to come back inside. Now, you got my promise.
Again, they never take into consideration that Blair at that point might be a thing. They put him out there because they were afraid of him as a human. They didn't realize that the thing version of him might have been at that point attempting to communicate, as I said earlier, but when it had taken over Bennings, it hadn't completed it, and all it knew was the sound of the wind, and maybe all it knew was how to produce that sound. Humans weren't around, it appears, when it crashed, so it wouldn't have any understanding of our language patterns, at least not yet. It's just a fascinating movie. I absolutely love this movie. I watch it almost every Halloween, and I really enjoy it. Even now, it spooks me. The idea of something like that happening. And there have been other thought experiments and other, I'm sure, shows that have kind of done a similar thing. Body Snatchers is one of those. Just a very creepy idea of being taken over by something, or being eaten and cloned by it. As weird as it sounds, it does actually creep me out quite a bit. And it was something that kind of got me thinking about horror and what causes you to feel, you know, the sense of horror and horrified, that movie really does bring out sort of the fear and the horror and the what ifs, the confusion, the palpitations, and the grossness too, because I feel like horror does need a little bit of grossness and, you know, sort of something that makes you repulsed and afraid. Very, very afraid. This movie absolutely does that for me. So, to sum up here, at the very end of the movie, McCready has realized that the only way to win against an opponent like this is to basically just rig the game in a way like he did with the chess wizard, to throw his drink into its circuit board and just destroy everything. So, and that's exactly what they do. They go about and just completely destroy, you know, everything in sight. And I really feel like this is, again, this is where his character, we call into question whether his methods are the best, because basically he has decided for the group that it's over, we're basically going to lose anyway, but the best outcome is we make this creature lose too. And given that they're sleep deprived, probably haven't eaten in a few days, some of them have been drugged up for a while and are just kind of coming back to the situation. It's no wonder that they kind of choose this path, that McCready thinks that this is the best path. And again, if we really do think that the creature is going to take over the world, maybe this is the best path. But we basically get to a standoff point where McCready and the creature size each other up, and McCready tosses, you know, the dynamite, and causing a massive amount of explosions because they had rigged the whole thing with dynamite. At the very end, we see him somehow walking away from the destruction and collapsing in more destruction with a bottle of whiskey. And to me, that was very suspicious. Like, where was this bottle of whiskey the entire time? What, was he keeping it on him the entire time? I think the answer is yes, because he kind of just destroyed everything else. He found it in the rubble and sort of took it. That we don't know. But the fact of the matter is, he has that bottle of whiskey. He's a man surrounded by the ice and the cold. And same way the movie begins, the movie ends. With that same level of uncertainty and the same idea that the next move might be the winning move of the game. It was very symbolic. To me, it was a really, really symbolic and fascinating movie of delving into the psychology of feeling like there might be traitors and people who would betray you around you. The game Among Us really does a good job with with this concept, and, you know, on a gaming level. And that game was really fun. But to be in a situation like that for real would probably be terrifying on a level that most people haven't even considered. We naturally trust those closest to us, and that is what kind of leads to situations where we might be taken advantage of. I think that is kind of the main message of the movie, if you just broke it down to the bare bones. Anyway, oh my gosh, this was probably a long one. Thank you so much for sticking with me throughout this little review theory video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I really hope you consider watching The Thing this Halloween. It's just a great movie. I think it should be more popular than it is. It's one of my favorite movies for Halloween. And yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to be here, and I'll see you later. Bye.